Doing API calls in Microsoft Power Automate is straightforward. Let's first create a new flow, so I hit Create and choose an instant cloud flow. Let's give our flow a name. I will call this call API demo and choose to manually trigger my flow. Then I hit Create. So the trigger will just be that we started. You can easily incorporate these to much more advanced flows. To make an API call, we click the plus. We search for HTTP. We find it down here. We can see it's a premium feature, meaning you need a paid Power Automate license. We give it a name. Let's call this Star Wars. The reason is that we now want to call a Star Wars API. This is an API with Star Wars characters with a lot of information on it, a perfect demo API. This is corresponding to, for example, your employees, your colleagues, or whatever data you want to fetch. If you go to swappy.info, with an API, you always have some documentation, or almost always. We can find it here. And let's start with this getting started URL. This is a URL that go into swappy.info, go into planet and find the first planet or the planet with ID 1. This is also known as an endpoint, and as you can see, it's just a URL. So whenever you hear endpoint, it's just a URL. We need to say which API, what is the address of the API we're trying to connect to. Then I go to my flow. Up here you can see the URL. I say Control V to paste it in. The method, what do we want to do? The most likely is that you're going to use the get or post. Since we only need to get data down, we choose the get. Then we can try to test it. So I will save the flow, click test, choose manually and run the flow. Click done, and then you will see a green check mark here. If I click it again, I can choose to show raw outputs. This is the result that we get back. It comes in a JSON. A JSON is just a way of sending data. It's very efficient because there are rules how this JSON can be structured. And with these rules, it makes it easy for us as automation developers to interpret the values. You can see it's a JSON by these curly brackets in the start, the end. First, we have a status code. 200 is a success. The headers, these are metadata. And then we have a body with the information to us. So the ID 1 was Tatooine. We have a surface water population, which films it appeared in. So we have a lot of information back. We can change the endpoint. So if I go back to my documentation, scroll a little bit down to resources. For example, let's choose the people. Let's mark this URL. Go back to Power Automate. Close this, click edit to edit our flow, change the URL, hit save, then we're going to test it. Let's do a manual one again. And this was also a success. If I click this HTTP Star Wars, show raw outputs, I can now see that the result that we get back is in the body, we have an array. You can see this is an array by these hard brackets instead of these curly brackets. So the first element of the array is Luke Skywalker. Then we have C3PO, R2D2 is ID 3, and so forth. Usually you want to get specific items at your API and not just take all of the data there. So we can do that. If I go to documentation, scroll a little bit down, I can see I can also add an ID after the people. For example, /1 will give me the item with the ID 1. Let's try to do that. So if I go back here, hit edit, then I will have a slash and I could take the tree, save, and try to test it. Do like this, run the flow, click done. And if I go to show raw outputs, I have now gotten the R2D2. Usually you want to do a lot of these API calls in a flow For example, I need to get certain customers, employees, or all other items through an API call. Let's try to do that. So instead of just getting an ID, let's take a data source. So we read a data source, then we do multiple API calls and write the results back to that data source. We will use Excel today, but you can use a database or whatever you want. Let's open up a browser tab. And now I will navigate to my OneDrive. I find that in the M365 cloud.microsoft/apps. Then I go to OneDrive. I could also have written OneDrive. Go into My Files. And if I scroll down, I will choose my project subfolder. Feel free to use any other subfolder. We just need it to be in OneDrive so Power Automate can reach the data. This folder is empty, so let's go create an Excel book. I go up to Create or Upload, Excel Workbook. Let's give it a name. So here, characters.xlsx. And then we need some columns and rows. Which columns do we want? Well, we have one columns with IDs in. These are the IDs that we want to look up in our API. This is usually how you want to do it. Right now it's IDs. It could also be social security numbers, number plates, and a lot of other things. These are almost always unique. And then we just do this and we can do this. The reason I put 84 in here is that this will give us an error. So we need to learn error handling as well. And what data do we want back? Let's say I want a name, birth year, bio, and status. The status will either be a success or an error. We need to format this dataset as a table. So I mark it, go to home if I'm not already there, and choose format as a table. Let's pick one of these formats. I just go with one of the standard ones. My table has headers. Yes, we have headers up here. I can click OK. Now we have the table. Click anywhere inside it. Go to Table Design. Right now it's named Table 1. So let's go rename that. Characters. Choose whatever name you want, something that tells a little bit about the data. Now you can see if I go up to Table Designs that we have name. So far, so good. So we want a flow that read this data. It needs to read this, all these IDs. And then we use the API to look up these IDs, extract the data. That is, we need to learn how to extract the data from the JSON and write it back here. Then we will do status, error handling, and a lot more. So what I want to do here, that is back to the flow and hit edit. We need to get all this Excel data. So before this HTTP, I click the plus, and to get the data out of an Excel book, I take the list rows present in a table. Here. The location, that is OneDrive. OneDrive for Business here. Document library. That will be documents or documenta in my local language. Then we have the file. Let's go find that. We save this in project characters and our table. Now you will see our table name will appear here. That is it. So now I can choose to save. I want to be able to see that this works, that I have this data, because then when I have that, then we can iterate the data and finally we can do these API calls. So what I do here is that I have an apply to each. Yeah, this apply to each iterates a collection. So what do I want to iterate? Well, that will click here. I can click this dynamic, this lightning. I want to have the body value, that is the value of the body from this list row present in the table. In fact, Power Automate also make API calls internally. Sometimes you don't even notice. So we're iterating this one up here. Now I want to do an API call for each row in this table. So I drag this API HTTP connector up here and I hit it. Right now we will not take the tree, so delete that. And now we will insert some dynamic content. I can do that by going up here. And then you can see, I can click see more here, and I will choose the ID from here. Then I can save and test it again. Now we will do 9 API calls. We will have an error in one of them. We know we will handle that one a little later. So here it's still working. Now it's doing these 9 API calls. You will see that we have an error. We know that. As you can see, this first one went well. If I click here, there's something, if I show raw outputs, that's something with Luke Skywalker. If I take the next one, that was C3PO. So now we are doing multiple API calls, R2D2. If I go over to number 8, this was what we actually knew, because this is the 84 wasn't found, and if I choose to show raw outputs, we get an error. We can also see that the status code now changed to 404, which is an error. And if I just go to the last one here, this was also a success with the status code 200. We will do the error handling, don't worry. Let's just go in here again and choose show raw outputs. And let's also mark all this, Control C. Then we have the output of our API call on the clipboard. I prefer to open up a notepad. Control V to paste it in. We will use it a little bit later. Then I can close this. If I want to, for example, get the name out of this output, as you can see, if I scroll a little bit down, we can move inside the body of this HTTP, and then we have the name here. So I can say, go into the body and of the HTTP, Star Wars, and give me the value of the name key. All these to the left here are keys, and these are values. These are also known as key value pairs. We can do that. Let's click edit here. So after we have done this, I can click the plus here, and then I will have, let's just do a compose. Yeah. What I want to do is to create an expression that drags out the name. Click this expression here. So first I want to go into the dynamic content. I want to look at the body of the HTTP Star Wars. I click here, then it automatically writes it. I could have done it myself. Then in the body, I will move one level ahead, just to go into the body. I want to go into the name. I can easily do that by adding this to my expression. Then I can hit add. And if I hover my mouse over, you will see that we now inserted the expression here. Then I can save and test it again. Yes, we will still have the error. We will solve for the error right away. So right now it's doing these API calls. You will also notice that if I go into compose, we now have the Luke Skywalker. If I take the next one, C3PO, R2D2, you can see that we now succeeded in extracting a specific element. So if we wanted to save these names, we have the solution here. However, this can be a little bit troublesome, like just writing these expressions. You will make errors, it will take time. We can do it more efficiently. But it's nice to know this expression notation, so please pay attention to what we did here. Then, instead of this compose, we will parse the JSON. So after the HTTP, like plus, parse just means that we extract the data we want from the output JSON up here. Remember, this was in a JSON format. So I take the parse JSON. The content, that is what JSON do we want, and that was this one here. We got that from a dynamic expression. That was the HTTP Star Wars body. And then we need to provide a schema. A schema is just telling Power Automate, how is this output looking? So how is this body output looking? We have it here. So what I need to do is to copy this curly brackets here all the way down to this curly bracket. This is the body of it. Having done that in my clipboard, I go back to the Parse JSON, use sample payload, paste it in here. Then I click done, and you will see that Power Automate automatically create a schema for us. Then I can go to the compose. Now I don't need my expression, so I can delete this. The benefit now, you will see it, is that when I click this lightning, click see more, now I have all the output just available for me to pick from. I could again, let's find, I have the name somewhere here, but I could also just take the eye color or gender or whatever I want. Let's take the birth year here. Let's go save it. Let's go test it. Run the flow. And now we are running again. So this makes it much easier by using this Parse JSON. But again, I will recommend that you get familiar with the notation that we first did in here. You see, we have a 9 BBY. That's just how Star Wars pick their birth years. 112. Probably also have some unknowns. But here we are able to extract all these birth years. Then I can click edit. We will not use the compose further. So let's go up. Delete it. We also talked about their error handling. We know that we only want to pass this JSON when we actually have a success. So we can say, click the plus, and then you can find a condition. Yep. So I want to look at the status code from this HTTP Star Wars. What I want to do, or how I can do that is I can click this lightning and I have the status code available. If that is equal to 200, then I want to pass. I drag this up here. Then I also want to be able to, my flow should also run if we have an error up here. Then Power Automate per default stops this, but I also want to be able to run down here, go do this check, and also log if an error is happening. We can do that by clicking this condition, and I can go to settings and configure this run after. So this condition, when should it run after this Star Wars? Right now it only runs if this Star Wars is successful. Let's also add whenever it's have an error, then this false will also run. So save, go test it. So we add each step one at a time. That makes most sense. Also, when we build, this is the easiest way to do it. Then we can see one thing work before we continue. And if you like these videos, please give it a thumbs up. That will really help my channel a lot. Thank you. Now I can see we don't have any errors. That's because we handle it here. We still have an error in this one here, but now it runs further. It runs to the condition. We can see here it's not over here. It's in the false branch, but we don't have any actions yet in the false branch. So just continue to the next iteration. Let's start to log the status to Excel. So let's initialize a variable called status, where we will save the status to. That has a few benefits. I prefer to have my variables initialized up here in the beginning. So let's find an initialize variable. So a variable is a container for a value. I use those to make it easier and for reusability, which you will see in a few seconds. This is the initialized variable status. I prefer to keep the action name still here, then it will get a lot easier here, and then just add a name after a hyphen. Let's give this variable a name called status. The type will be a string, and we will not add a value to it. Then we will say, if this is true, then we know that the status code was a success. We will have a set variable. So what I do here is to find a set variable here, and this will be a success. So I'll take the name and give it the value success. Similarly, over here in false, I will have a similar set variable. Here, we will call this one error. And that will be the status. And let's say error with the status code. And let's insert the status code. Right now it's 404, but we could have other status codes. We use it here. Then we have the status message in a variable. Then we can go outside of this condition, but not outside the for each. So for each one of these items that we are looping through in the Excel, that is this apply to each, so we are still inside this container, I want to log the status. So I hit this plus here, and then I say update a row. So what do I need to do here? Let's say I want to update a row and I want to do the status. So the location is still OneDrive for business. Now I'll specify which Excel I want to update. Project here. Characters. Table is still named characters. Then I also need to say, what row do I want to update? Well, do we have a unique column here that says something? Yes, we have the ID. So what I want to do is to say the key column is ID. Then I also have a key value that will still be the ID from up here since it's the same, but these could be different. Here, I will pick the ID. Then I also need to go into advanced parameters. So show all here. Right now I'm only updating the status. So what will I write here? Well, that will be the value of this variable. So click the lightning, go up in variables and hit status. So now when I run this, I want to see that all these rows are getting updated, either with an error message or a success. So we save it and then we will test it. Here, let's go test it. We run the flow. It will take a few seconds and then we are there. So our flow is still running. Now it's doing the API calls. Our flow ran successfully. And if I go to here, I can see that we now have logged each one of these statuses, and we even have an error with the status code 404. That was D84. Let's also extract a name and birth year. Let's go click edit. So when do I want to extract this? I will only do that whenever we are in the true condition. So that is to click plus here. I want to have another update row here. Again, let's just call this one data update or something like that. Now we're updating the data. So that was not what I want. I wanted documents. And we go to project. Here we find a table characters. Again, we will find a key column will be the ID. Key value still be ID from here. And now I want to update the name and birth year. So go into the Parse JSON. Now I just need to take the body name and body birth year. Here it is. We click save. If you want help to all of this, I created a community of 16,000 developers. It's completely free to join. You can post all your Power Automate problems and we will gladly help you. At least you do a little effort yourself, then we will be more than happy to help. And it's also a place if you want to get a lot better with automation, join that. The link is below in the first comment here. So now our flow is running. What we added was that we now want to extract the data as well from the API call. Before we just did a log. And if I go back here, we have extracted the names, the birth year. We can also see one of the names from R5D4 was one of the birth years was unknown. This is just unknown at the API side. So with that in place, we can also do a little bit of more advanced API call. This was from the Swappy API, but we could also use, for example, the OpenAI API to write us a bio. A bio that could be one sentence about each of these characters. It could also be if you have customer emails, you wanted to create automatic reply to those, or you want to do programmatic SEO where you write automatically articles, then we could use the OpenAI API. You will find that one by going to platform.openai.com and log in. If you don't have an account, then you want to create one. This will also cost a little bit of money, really little, so we will use like $0.001 today. Anyway, let's talk a little bit about what we're going to do here. So I go to the API reference here. It will load a little bit slow here. So then it will load. This is the documentation. So if I go like we had the Star Wars documentation before. So if I go to chat completions, I say create chat completion. So a lot of documentation here, similar to what we had before. And we see something over here. You can recognize this URL. So now we are going to call this URL. Let's go do that. And what I want to do is to go back here and click edit. I only want to write a bio whenever we are over here. And that's because we cannot write a bio for a character that doesn't exist. This status will log the status of the Star Wars API. We could also have a similar one for the OpenAI. If you want that, we will not create it here, but feel free to add a condition in this condition that also logs this. So what I want here is that I want to have an HTTP again, like this. And since we are going to have the bio, let's drag it up here, because then we should just use one update row. Let's call this one OpenAI. Control V to paste in here. Since we're now going to send data to the OpenAI, that will be the character and the prompt, then, and we also want to get data back, we will not use a get anymore, we will use a post. Then we need to fill in some headers. Go back to the API reference. You will see that we need to send it as a JSON format. This is automatically, but we need this one here. So copy the authorization without this colon. Go back here, and this will be the key. Then the value. That will be bearer OpenAI API key. Whereas this $sign OpenAI API key is a placeholder. We will replace it in a few seconds. Go back here and paste it in here. We also need a body. A body is the message that we send to this API here. The body is also here. So mark do like this and grab it here. Control C to paste it in. You can see something like the model. We could change the model if we wanted that. Let's just go with the default. And then we have an array of messages. First, we have a developer that is saying, how should this behave, like the model behave? And then we also have a prompt. So I go back here and then Control V, paste it in. Let's say we are not a helpful assistant anymore. Let's ask it to write UI content writer and Star Wars expert. This is Star Wars. Let's this. Oh, do like this. Then we also have our prompt that will not be hello anymore. That will be right. This is the task that we are giving the ChatGPT inside the OpenAI API. Right, run sentence about. Then we want to have the character name. So I can go up here again, have the body name inside the parse JSON. That's rushed from here. And I can add from Star Wars. I think they are fairly unique names, but then we're just sure. We want it to be in the B2 English. It's just a way of writing and only return output. So don't say anything like, here's the output, or do you want more, blah, blah, blah. So this is what we're going to do. So now we added some dynamic content inside this body. Then we also have this placeholder. You need an API key. That is to authenticate that this is us, in fact. So what I can do here is that I can go into the OpenAI and go to dashboard. Yeah. And then I want to go into API keys here, and we create a new secret key. Don't share this key because then people can use your account. And if you don't have any money, then you will not be able to use this. So I think the minimum is $10 here. Only do it if you find this interesting. I can this one Power Automate demo. Do like this. Create secret key. So I need an API key that is free, but you also need to have some money, and you will find that one here in settings, in billing. Here you can recharge. You can see here I used like 0.15 of my credits. So they are fairly cheap. Now we have the API key, and usually you should probably find a way of storing these API keys, probably not directly in your flows. And I just do it here for demo reasons. Anyway, now we do these API calls. We still need to extract it from here and save it down here. But for now, let's just see that this works and see what the output of an HTTP call to OpenAI looks like. Then we are, come on, run the flow. Click done. So now we're doing an API call for rows, and if it's a status code 200, then we will do one more, and we will update these rows. So you will see that it will take a little bit longer here because the OpenAI API needs to interpret these results. And again, please like this video if you find this one useful. That will be able for me to make a lot more of this kind of content. Anyway, I click here, and if I go to show raw outputs of this HTTP OpenAI, then I can go in here, and now I can see it's similar build. This is the smart thing about it. We have a status code of this 200. We have some metadata in the headers, and then if I go down to body, yes, this is structured a little bit else. Here I have the body. If I go into choices, message, content, Luke Skywalker is a brave young man. Now OpenAI created a bio for us. Here I can choose to copy all of this, Control C, paste it over here. It makes it a little bit easier if we're going to use this, because now we're closing it, and then we're using it here in the update data. So I click edit, and then I want to move inside here, go inside show all, because now we also have a bio. To get this out, we could use a parse JSON again, so have a parse JSON here, or I could practice my expressions. Please let us do an expression just to practice these. You will use them a lot. So what I do here is that I know that I'm going into the HTTP OpenAI, so I can find that in dynamic content. I can go into the body. Then I need one more level. And what is the next one named? I can go in here and let's just do this. And let me find here. So I go into the body. Then I will go into the choices. And you can see here we have an array. So I will take the first element of choices. Actually, we only have one element in choices, but you still need to say, give me the first element. This is 0 index, so the first element is index 0. The next element would be index 1, 2, and so forth. So here I will say, give me first element of choices. I will do that by saying choices. And then I will say in hard brackets 0 like this. So now we are in the choices. We're here. Then I also want to say move inside message, move inside content, and then we have our bio. I'll go back here. And then we can do this message like this. And then I want the content like this. So now we have our expression. I click add here, and if I hover my mouse over, you will see that sometimes Power Automate simply just delete some of my expressions. Extremely annoying. So what I recommend when this happens is to copy this, remove it again, go back here, do like this, and then we have the 0, we had the message like this, and we had the choices. Mark it, Control-C to add it. Then it says it has a problem. There's no problem here. I can click add, and you will see it now adds it. This is an internal bug in Power Automate. You have to know. But now we update the bio here, so you will see that it also fills in this bio. To test it, we can delete all of the data just to see that it still works. Then we hit save. And we can test it. I want to do it manually again. We have no trigger, by the way. So we are now updating. This is extremely nice to know all these tricks, both in doing the API calls, but also be able to pass these, write the expressions, and all the things that we learned today. We're still not finished. So now you'll see it takes a little bit longer here in running. We are still, we have at least we can see the first one went well. Our flow ran successfully. And if I go back here, you will also see that we have a bio here. And if I go back to here, what I want to do is that I want to see that I get the result. We can also see that we updated the rows, and if I go in here, we have a blank bio. Well, why is that? We still need to figure it out. Let's go back here. Then we can live debug. So what I want to do here is that I say, go into the body of the HTTP OpenAI, go into choices. We have the second one. We have message. This should also be fine. And we have the choices. This was me, so this was a blunder from me. This should, of course, be content here. Well, then I hope you like these live build. I copy it again just to make sure that it updates. I hope that, as you can see, it didn't, so we delete it here. I hope you like these live builds, because I also make mistakes like you, and we can go in here and delete this. You can see how I solve them live. Hopefully I don't make a lot, but I find it very useful to share my thought process. No shame in making mistakes when you do this, because you will get better. Just be able to fix it. It doesn't matter if you're not as fast as me. You just take it one step. What went wrong here? Sometimes you have to have a few compose messages or a post at the I Love Automation Discord. The link was below in the first comment, just to make sure that you can fix it. So go post a screenshot if something doesn't work, make a nice explanation, and we will have an answer for you very fast. Let's hope that we actually was able to update the data. That's it. Now I have all these Yeah, Darth Vader, once known as Anakin Skywalker, is a powerful Sith Lord famous for his black armor, deep voice, and tragic story. And it's not getting written here. That was our error. Now you want to go watch this video. This is the I Love Automation guide, how to join. It's very, very easy. Once you have joined here, come into the who are you and said, hello, I come from this video. Maybe tag me. I will be glad to greet you. You will expand your network and you will also be a lot better with automation. Thanks for watching.